Hi everybody, it's Geordie from Geordie's Cards. Thank you for joining me today. I am creating this fun little panda card featuring stamps from Pawsome Stamps. This is a new set that well, it's not a new set, but a new set to me, and I was very excited to have a play around with them. So here is the stamp set. So it's called Playful Pandas by Pawsome Stamps. I'm also using the MFT Blueprints 29 Dienamics, the Heffy Doodle Fancy Foliage stencil. And what I did was I cut a piece of cardstock that's going to fit behind my little frame from my Blueprints Dienamics. This is cut from Gumdrop green cardstock, MFT cardstock. And I'm using Rustic Wilderness Distress Oxide ink to ink blend through my stencil onto this card base. And it's so pretty. I love this stencil. I've used it a couple of times now, and I think I'll be using it a lot more in the future. Really, really like these Heffy Doodle stencils. So just making sure that I've completely covered that, and then I'll lift off the stencil and reveal the pattern underneath. And to kind of finish it off a bit, I'm going to add some splatter detail. So I'll take some of my Distress Oxide ink and squirt it with a little bit of water, take my paintbrush. This is just a very fine paintbrush, and tap that all over to get some little kind of textured dots all across my card base. Once I'm finished with the green, which I do seem to be doing a lot of, once I'm finished with the green, I'm going to bring out my white acrylic paint, and I'm just going to take a little bit of that with my paintbrush and again water that down with some water from my little spray bottle. And I'm going to add some white splatter detail all over as well. This background is very much in the background, so you're not going to see a huge amount of it, but I just wanted to add some kind of fun little details to it. It's kind of just fun to do anyway, and I quite enjoy doing it, but it just adds a little bit of something to the background, which I quite like. So once that's done, I'm going to clean everything up, and I went ahead and stamped out my images onto some Transotype perfect colouring paper, and I'm going to go ahead and colour these guys in. So I'm using N8, N6 and N4 for the darkest parts of my pandas. So the eyes, the arms, the little feet and the ears. And I'm just turning on my light so you can possibly get a better view. It was quite early in the morning when I was doing this, so it was still a little bit, not dark, but I don't get a huge amount of morning light in my craft room, so I tend to get the afternoon light more. So I just wanted to add a little bit of light. And I love these images. They are so, so cute. I had lots of fun stamping these out. Couldn't resist doing these guys. This is a stamp set that I think was released for Valentine's Day. I'm not 100% sure. But Pawsome Stamps have only been around for a year. I think they just recently celebrated their first birthday. I've only just discovered them, and I'm so happy that I have. If you haven't, you could check out my haul video. I recently got some goodies from these guys, and I'm very excited. And I just couldn't resist, as I say, having a go with these little pandas. My daughter really likes pandas, so I'm hoping she will enjoy this card. But they're just really, really cute. And I like the fact, I know there are quite a few different panda stamp sets out there, but I like the fact that this one didn't have any of the black parts completely solid. Quite a few of the panda stamp sets I've seen have the black parts of the panda already kind of coloured in as a solid part of the stamp. And I quite enjoy actually just colouring them myself. So just because it adds a little bit more of shading and light and dark areas to them. So I was really happy with that, and I really liked that fact about these little stamps. So for the lighter part of my pandas, I'm using N2, N0 and my colourless blender. And I'm just adding a little bit kind of to the bottom parts of their faces and a little bit to the bottom parts of their bellies. Just to add some shading detail to those areas. So not too much. I don't want them to look grey. I do want it to look white, but it just kind of, it's nice to give them a little bit of light and shade. So for the noses, I'm going back in with those darker N8 and N6 markers, And then I'm going in with my R20 to add some little cheeks, as always, and colour in the inside of their ears. And I will do the same to my other little panda off screen. But before I do him, I'm going to go in with my bright pink markers to colour in the little heart that this guy is holding. So I'm using RV06, 04 and 02 for this. And these are very, as I say, very bright, very colourful. There is quite a big difference between the RV04 and the RV02, and I struggled to get a decent blend. So you can see that here, it's quite a big colour difference between those two markers. So what I decided to do was a little trick that I use. I've got my acrylic block here off to the side. I'm scribbling on some of that RV04, and I'm going to pick it up with my RV02 and use that to kind of act as a in-between shade to blend out those two markers. And I like this trick. It seems to work quite well for me. I know some people just do like tip-to-tip colouring, but for some reason I prefer this. I find it a little bit more, not accurate, but just easier for me, and it works quite nicely. So if you're having trouble blending some markers, this is a little tip that I would recommend trying out and seeing if it works for you. So once I was happy with that, as I say, I went ahead and coloured my other little panda in exactly the same way. And then I'm going in with my greens for all of the bamboo and the bamboo leaves. And I used YG09, YG07, YG05, and a little bit of YG03 as well. So just as always, laying in my darkest and blending out towards the lightest. And I wanted this to be quite nice and bright, happy colours to contrast against the black and white of the pandas. And I think it turned out quite nicely. So I'm quite happy with my colouring today. And as I say, there were loads of fun to colour in. And they're such cute little images. And I'm really looking forward to trying out some of the other stamp sets from Pawsome Stamps, because they have some absolutely gorgeous stamp sets. So I'm really looking forward to playing around with those in the future. So I'm not going to show all of the leaves because there's a few of them. And I thought you might get bored of watching me do exactly the same thing over and over again. So I'm just going to go ahead and colour the rest off screen because you've seen what I've done once. And then I'm going to take my white Sakura Jelly Roll pen and, as always, add some highlight details to everything. Again, this is something that I like to do with all of my images, just because I think it kind of makes them pop. It makes them look a little bit more three-dimensional, and just adds another little kind of bit of texture and element to them, which I like. So I'm just going ahead and adding a little bit to each of the leaves, and then I'll go ahead and put some on the pandas as well. I put a little bit on their noses. They've got nice kind of little noses where you can put a bit of a shine mark on them, which I thought was quite nice, around the heart, and then a little bit onto their arms and different areas of their bodies, just to create that kind of rounded three-dimensional look, which I always quite like to do. And once all of this was done, I did go ahead and fussy cut these out. Now, I do think there are coordinating dies for these, but I don't normally buy coordinating dies. I do sometimes, particularly if the images are quite intricate and would be difficult to fussy cut. But on whole, I prefer to fussy cut my images. Not prefer necessarily, but I guess I prefer to spend the money on the stamps rather than on the dies. So that's what I do. I tend to fussy cut my things out. I've also gone ahead and cut everything else out that I needed. So using my Blueprints Dienamics, I've cut that frame piece, which I've adhered already. Now, I don't know what happened here, but I seem to cut off a lot of stuff. So I adhered it to that background that I had already stamped out. Then I used my, stenciled out. Then I used my Mama Elephant's Wishes Enclosed stamp set to white heat emboss that birthday wishes greeting on the front. I cut the other panel that comes from the Blueprints 29 Dienamics set from some good Gumdrop green cardstock from MFT. And then I used that Mama Elephant Wishes Enclosed stamp set and one of the Playful pandas for the inside of the card. So hopefully you got all that. And I'm sorry it was all cut off. I don't know what happened, but for some reason it cut off the recording that I managed to delete it somehow. But hopefully you can get the idea of what I did. So just white heat embossed my sentiment onto the stenciled panel, adhered all that to the frame, and now I'm going to pop my images down on where I want them. So I'm going to layer up some leaves in the corners of that top kind of framed off part, just to kind of frame the sentiment that I've used. And I really like this nice big mama elephant sentiment. It's a really good stamp set to have. I don't often buy sentiment stamps on their own. I tend to use the sentiments that come with the sets of, or the stamps themselves, but I really like this one because it's nice and big, and also it has some smaller sentiments, which is like the one that I used on the inside of the card. So this is a really good stamp set, sentiment stamp set to have. And I'm using my Lawn Fawn Jumbo glue tube to glue everything down. And I'm just putting my two little pandas in the bottom with where the two little panels are, just to either side, so they're not completely centered in the panels, they're kind of off to each side, just to kind of frame everything up. And don't they look so cute? I think they're really, really sweet. So once all that was done, I adhered that panel onto my green Gumdrop green card panel with some foam tape, just to add a little bit of dimension, kind of pop them up. And I'm trying to be careful to center everything up. Hopefully I've done an okay job with that. And once that was done, I just used some liquid glue and adhered that onto my background panel. And you'll see the Blueprints Dienamics is smaller than your standard size A2 card base, so it gives this lovely border all the way around. I think that's a 1/4 inch border all the way around. And I just thought that was really, really nice. And I like how the white pops against the green and kind of makes everything stand out. And that's it, card done. I really like this one. I had so much fun making it. I hope you enjoyed it as well. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up. Do leave me a comment. I'd love to know what you thought of this one. And let me know if you've used any Pawsome Stamp products. I'd love to hear what you've used before. And also, please do think about subscribing to my channel. I'd love to see you come back again. Thanks so much for joining me today. Take care. Bye.